Ladies and gentlemen, did the bell ring? Oh, thanks, Chief. I apologize. Well,
I'll watch for you, sir.
well, thank you, sir. I should have just been looking at you. You were locking eyes with me. All right. Well, I will go ahead and call the first regular meeting of council in 2025 and wish everybody a very happy new year and turn it over to Councilwoman Garten for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Those of you that would like to stand and pray with us, would you do so? Most Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this day, this evening. Lord, we ask now that you would bless this time of meeting and making decisions for our town. We ask your blessings over all of our people in the town, those that are here and those that are far away. We also ask your blessings, Lord, for a lot of the fires that are going on out west, and that you watch over those people. We just lift all these things up in your most heavenly name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Henry has been working for the town for a total of 15 years. He worked for the town of Somerville for around 11 years prior to moving out of state for a while. And when he returned to South Carolina in 2018, he resumed his employment with the town through the present day. He is a fantastic employee and is a great asset to the Public Works Department and the Stormwater Division. He is always early for work. He is a great leader on his crew, working to ensure each job is done with precision and expertise, while also teaching the less experienced employees the aspects of construction and techniques that he has learned during his tenure. Henry never misses work and is always willing to help his fellow employees with anything that they need. Henry is a great man and a great all-around person. He is a pleasure to work with and is a mentor and great example to his fellow employees. Henry has also always participated in the wellness program each year that has been available, and he encourages others to participate within the department throughout the year as well. Congratulations, Henry. Next is a resolution to honor the service of Philip Dixon. Whereas Philip Dixon has dedicated 47 years of exceptional and selfless service to the town of Somerville as a valued member of the Board of Architectural Review, and whereas during his tenure, Mr. Dixon has consistently demonstrated the highest levels of professionalism, dedication, and passion for preserving the unique character and charm of the town of Somerville. And whereas as a member of the Board of Architectural Review, Mr. Dixon has played a pivotal role in the development and preservation of Somerville's historical and architectural integrity, providing thoughtful guidance and expertise on a wide range of architectural and preservation matters. And whereas Mr. Dixon's volunteer service reflects his unwavering dedication to public service, his love for community, and his selfless contribution to the betterment of Somerville. Now therefore, Mayor Touchberry and the Somerville Town Council do resolve to hereby honor Philip Dixon for his 47 years of distinguished service to the town of Somerville and express their deepest gratitude and appreciation for Mr. Dixon's invaluable contributions to the community. Next, we have a special presentation by the Chamber.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and we just want to thank you, and Mr. Slatton, and we just want to thank you for this opportunity to come and to personally thank you each individually for your support of not only the town of Somerville for our community, but also for the countywide vision plan. And I'm here today with also members of our board of directors, our board chairman, Mr. Chris Kaler, as well as we have a few additional board members here with us. And I believe you have in front of you a copy of a letter that we provided just to give you an update on the vision plan, as well as a copy of the signatures of each of our board members. We're here also just to kind of give you an update on the process as to where we are. So we formed a committee, and a committee was formed to prepare a request for proposal, which was posted, and we received interest from 11 different firms who were interested in the project. And through a very extensive evaluation process, the proposals were narrowed down to 4 finalists, in which we had personal interviews with those finalists, and we have made a selection of the firm that we feel is the best fit for Somerville and Dorchester County. And that name will be disclosed. We're in the process of contacting the other prospects as well, just to let them know that we're finalizing the process. And we do plan to start the process very soon. I have with me here, of course, Mr. Chris Kaler, who will give you more information about the plan in itself.
Oh, and I can never do as good as Miss Rita. And first of all, I think it's funny, right before the meeting started, Miss Beth had said, "Oh my gosh, what are all these people here for? What did we do?" So there's a little panic there. So we're glad it's here for a good reason and not anything that you had to be concerned about. The letter, as Miss Rita referenced, was signed by all the board members. A good number of them are here tonight. We appreciate them being here. So you've got resounding support from not just the business community, but community leaders all together for this. The vision plan, honestly, Miss Rita always is the visionary for the chamber, always has been. She's definitely the face of the chamber. She first brought that up, but at our board planning session last year, 3-year planning session, I mean, it was a resounding that we needed to have a countywide vision plan. And that came from everybody. One of the biggest outspoken persons for that is Jonathan Dolly of the Keon Group. Is very much in that. And when he looks at that as the vision plan, and I'm probably off my own script, it's not just aesthetically what can we do to change the community, to look at it. It's more of a deep dive. It's a lot of things that we already know that are out there: attainable housing, childcare issues, mobility, but workforce training, focusing on shopping locally. A big thing that came out of that, with y'all's collaboration with the county, apparently, some recreate locally, whatever that means, whether it's a complex or trails or whatever. But economic development and how we can achieve better successes specifically in the town with economic development, but also we all know that there's a big school funding disparity between DD2 and DD4. So we're looking at countywide, all encompassing what we can do. What our ask obviously of you is not only financial, obviously we need financial help to get the process going, but also equally is participation. And we know all y'all are steadfast in that anyway, but we definitely need participation in task force. There'll be smaller group or subgroups of task force, but also at large, but also everybody that's here in attendance tonight, all of your constituents from each district. I mean, we need a good turnout for all the Surretts and all that are getting there. So we get a really diverse understanding of what the needs are of the community. So, we're looking to, with the cooperation from the town and the county and all the citizens is alignment and collaboration to assure the prosperity of the region as we can. So the consultants Broad Ripple Strategies is who we have selected, and we again we're not contractually engaged with them yet. They have done a great deal of work in the state of South Carolina. A big success of theirs is in Spartanburg. So we're very comfortable with them. Ms. Rita spoke to a lot of the references and it's resounding that they do a great job. Some of the three things really that the big takeaways for us from Broad Ripple was economic development experience. How can they help leverage our area for economic development success? 2 is their knowledge of funding sources, whether it be grant programs or whatever, once we get the plan and go to implementation. And 3 is implementation. I mean, they were steadfast in the fact that having a plan on the shelf does you no good. Implementation was what they were all about, and helping us find a way to do that. And ultimately, data-driven results. So they'll set us up through the chamber and chamber staff to be able to create scorecards of, every year as we, because this is a 3-year plan initially, to have a annual check-in, even maybe more frequently than that, but at least annual check-ins, data-driven results. Where are we and what can we do? So did I miss anything? Any questions or comments? So,
Council members, any questions or comments?
thank y'all very much.
I'll make
Yes, sir.
one quick comment. Thank you both for having the same kind of thought that I think is one of our greatest priorities, which is to have a direct community vision plan that we can all start working towards. As you know, we certainly represent the people, the business owners and citizens that live within the town. And we want to hear from them. So just making sure that we hear from every aspect of our community, make sure it's comprehensive. And I'm very excited to have this plan implemented this year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank y'all.
Next is approval of minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of the town council meeting of December 12th, 2024, and the standing committee meetings January 6th, 2025.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second to approve A and B on the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
For public comment for items on the agenda, Diane Frankenberger.
Hey there, good evening, you all. I would like to offer 2 sides to under miscellaneous item number C. So my address is 310 Central Avenue, and I also own a business here in town at 129 West Richardson Avenue. And I'll commence, and I know I have 5 minutes. Has 2:27 already gone by?
3 minutes.
Okay. I'm gonna talk fast then. My understanding is that one of the agenda items is a request to council to consider a zoning change in 2 different neighborhoods, one on Central Avenue and one on Magnolia Street, East Magnolia. I've lived in Somerville off and on because we were a military family since 1967, and I've seen many changes. In the East Richardson Avenue neighborhood, there were 3 boarding houses. My neighbor, Mrs. Westmoreland, took in teachers, and during the war, with the Naval Shipyard needing housing for workers, many houses were divided up to accommodate 2 kitchens and smaller rooms. Charles Darwin said in the mid-1800s that it was not the strongest that survived, and it was not the brightest that survived. It was plants, animals, and people that adapted to change that survived. What is under consideration tonight is a change that would accommodate more guests on properties that have restrictions as to what is allowed. Many years ago, Mr. James Martin and I were opposing another zoning change on Magnolia and East Richardson. In his remarks, he said simply, "Your zoning is your best protection to protect your property rights." That phrase was lost on me then, but not now. A community sets its standards to protect itself morally, legally, and ethically. Town council set some standards a few years back. Those standards have been violated. The answer is not that the structures be torn down. The properties in question have been greatly improved. What the results have been, a small influx of more visitors, and agree or not, I can tell you that Somerville is a tourist town. So in answer to respect Darwin's statement and to respect the ordinance and to address the rightful concerns of neighbors, a variance, not a zoning change, should be asked for, given, apologies offered, and acceptance and accepted. That's it. Amen. I'm done. Less than 3 minutes.
It's on the.
Item C, she was speaking on item C in miscellaneous.
Next, we have Adrian Quest.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. First, I want to tell you Happy New Year to all of you. My name is Adrian Quist, and I have lived in Somerville since 1965. Tonight, I will not talk about 1965, but instead 2025. In regard to zoning regulations, it is extremely important that people abide by the rules and regulations that provide protection to maintain the quality of life that this town continues to enjoy. It is unfortunate that even with the zoning rules, the Somerville Preservation Society and the people of the historical district are having to deal with people, including some of the county officials, that are trying to bug the system. There are folks that have little regard for the surroundings and never appear to be satisfied or happy with what they have. Bigger is not always better. It is my understanding that the property at the corner of East Richardson and South Magnolia Street is already in violation, and now the owners have a request to spot zone that property, which is part of the historical district. I don't live in the historical district, but I'm a very firm believer in preservation. My comment to you, council members, is keep practicing what you preach and continue to protect this town history by leaving the current zoning as it is. I urge you tonight to deny this spot zoning request. Otherwise, it will only open up another can of worms. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Quist. Ms. Beth, how many other folks do we have signed up? 4 more. There may be some confusion regarding a rezoning request. I believe the ones that you referenced were withdrawn by the applicant. So those are not on our agenda this evening. So of the 4 remaining, are those individuals speaking for or against the rezoning request that was withdrawn?
They're all for item 11C
Okay,
under miscellaneous.
okay. All right, we'll proceed then if, with the rezoning request is off, yes. All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure there was no confusion.
So there's no vote on the spot zoning issue.
Yes, sir. That was withdrawn by the applicant.
Well, I'm sorry for.
No, that's quite all right. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew.
But preservation is very important to
Thank
most
you.
people,
Thank you, Mr. Quinn.
and I understand that too. Thank you.
Next, we have Debbie, and I'm sorry, I'll butcher your last name. It starts with a T, of 206 East Richardson Avenue.
Mr. Mayor and council people, thank you so much. My name is Debbie Tomchek. I live at 206 East Richardson Avenue. And we have just, Mayor, you said nothing to do with zoning. And the zoning request, which we just went through with the Planning Commission, was withdrawn. But now I see tonight you're talking about under miscellaneous C, discussion and instruction to town staff to initiate an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance regarding zoning for bed and breakfast. And this request was from our council person, Tiffany Johnson Wilson. She also apparently was the one who suggested to the people that were trying to do rezoning, kitty corner, well, I guess you call it diagonal from our house, to rezone.
That's
And we
not
are-
correct.
Okay, that's what I've heard, but be what it is. We have the planning commission denied it, denied all the requests. We understand that this initiation to amend the Unified Development Ordinance would allow this bed and breakfast to have more units than is allowed. Currently, they are under violations. They have, they're not in compliance with any of the rules and regulations for bed and breakfast. They have too many units. They haven't paid their violations. We would please like to see them. We would like to see enforced zoning compliance at 115 South Magnolia. We would like immediate payment of all outstanding fines and accommodations. This is prior to initiating an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance regarding zoning, which would possibly put them in compliance because they haven't done anything right since 2017, 18. We also would like transparency on the steps taken to ensure further compliance and the rationale behind any decisions which enable or exempt certain property owners from zoning laws. What I see is a discussion to change a very well thought out Unified Development Ordinance to make sure that those of us that live in the historic district maintain the homes that we have in the historic district with integrity and with zoning laws, which is why I think you did all of the Unified Ordinance. So stick with it. Keep with your original, please. Thank you.
Next, Peter Gorman.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I would also like to speak on this item tonight generically, not specifically about these particular properties, but I must tell you that hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent on developing this UDO over the last 6-7 years. Thousands of hours were spent developing it, and I think we ended up with a very good product. The historic district has an overlay with the BAR that adds another layer of protection to what we have. And that is certainly a welcome. The most of the historic district is residential, but there is one exception to a commercial enterprise in the historic district residential neighborhood, and that is bed and breakfast. And it is controlled with conditional use permits, which are very strict. And they universally around the state require that the owner be in residence to operate it, that the owner must be at least a 50% owner of that property, and that the owner must be responsive to the neighbors' concerns about complaints about noise and parking. Those are very good restraints, and they work in most cases, unless the B&B operator chooses to ignore them. And I think we have an underlying case here of two particular properties, B&Bs in the historic district, that are not abiding by those rules. I urge you to maintain the current zoning restrictions and conditional use restrictions that apply, because they work very well in most cases. Thank you.
Next, Bertie Crosby.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I look like I do, but I just read the agenda before, about 10 minutes before the meeting, so I wanted to come down. Regardless of what this, to me, my opinion, the only need to address amending the B&B code in the UDO, I haven't heard of any big need for that. I haven't read about it. Haven't heard people talking about it. I haven't a cottage that I rent on Airbnb myself. I'm convinced that the only reason this is being spoken about tonight is because of the owners of 115 South Magnolia and 206 Central Avenue. As they said, we just got through with them dropping the request to change from GR2 to DMX. The day after that, my wife wrote the planning director and asked what was going on. And she said they were meeting with the owners to try to find a way for them to come into compliance. Now, these people had an agreement with the town to rent 3 units, 2 in the house and a cottage in 2017. By 2018, just looking at reviews on Airbnb, they had added another unit. They were already out of compliance. This past year, I was working on my house. We have big hedges. I heard people working. I needed to borrow a little piece of scrap of wood, so I go around. I happened to see the cottage in the backyard. I asked him what it was for, and it told me it's some kind of utility building or something like that. So I go down and asked him a call at the planning department if he knew about it. No, he didn't. So they got citations. Council people, and I think, and I don't want to be wrong. So if I'm wrong, I know Ms. Wilson here and you, Mayor, and I think you, Matt, met with those folks to talk about something. I don't necessarily know what came out of that, but I do know sometime after it, the DMX proposal came up. The UDO, from my reading it, is a very, very thorough document. There are a lot of options for people. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be changed. Another thing too, and it with regard to these properties that are not in compliance, is that there aren't a whole lot of Airbnb spaces downtown. He's got 3. Every time he rents one of those 3, he's got a potential to take a rental away from me every time. And that's the case. Miss the lady that owns the place said at this thing that they needed to have more than rentals than that so that they can make ends meet. That was a business decision, just like any business decision is with any of these B&Bs around. If they can't make ends meet with what they got, it's just like any other business. Either they need to raise their
Thank you,
prices
Mr.
or find some
Crosby. I
other way.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I lost track of it. I was too busy going. Thank you very much, though.
Jim Healy.
Good evening. I won't take time to reiterate some of the finer points made tonight by the other people, My name's Jim Healy. I live at 210 East Richardson. Unlike many of the others, we're new to this area. We moved into our house 4 years ago there for good reason. That's where we wanted to live for what it is here. Since then, I've learned you've all put a great deal of time into your UDO to tell us what this town is. And all that I ask right now is, can we stay that course? That's why we moved here. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I do not have any more public comment.
Thank you.
Next, under petitions, item A, petition by Dorchester County Career and Technology Center to annex TMS numbers 14515030044 and 045, located at 431 to 441 Old Trolley Road and totaling approximately 2.13 acres. Currently zoned CG, General Commercial in Dorchester County, and requested to be zoned UCMX, Urban Corridor Mixed Use, following the annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 3. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at its meeting on January 6, 2025.
Mayor, I move for a first reading of the petition.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second for first reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item B, petition by John H. and Nancy S. Hill to annex TMS number 13609000036, located at 1501 Central Avenue and totaling approximately 6.4 acres, currently zoned R2, Single Family Residential in Dorchester County, and requested to be zoned UCMX, Urban Corridor Mixed Use, following annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 4. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with no recommendation at its meeting on January 6, 2025.
Mr. Mayor, I move for first reading of the petition.
Do I have a second? All right. What's the pleasure of council?
Mr. Mayor, I amend that motion to say that we deny that proposed rezoning for UCMX.
You're just making a motion to deny?
Right, correct.
Okay.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, a motion and a second to deny the request. Any discussion?
I'd like to make a statement. For the record, please. I am opposed to the proposed rezoning to UCMX. The intent behind UCMX, taken from our UDO, states to transform suburban corridors into vibrant, walkable, mixed-use areas, and that's commendable. However, the specifics of this particular proposal, I do not feel like aligns with the broader goals of that zoning category. The proposal at hand calls for the development exclusively of townhomes on this parcel, and this singular use contradicts that mixed-use philosophy of UCMX, which is designed to include a diverse blend, housing, retail, offices, and lodging. I believe such diversity is crucial for creating lively, integrated communities. Moreover, the UCMX allows for 100% lot coverage with 0 feet setbacks on the front and sides, which in the context of an already crowded Central Avenue raises significant concerns. The current state of traffic and infrastructure along this corridor is already strained. Increasing the density without prior enhancement to the roadway would exacerbate congestion and degrade the quality of life for our residents. Considering the possibility in the future to widen Central Avenue, it would be prudent to delay an intensive townhome development until the necessary infrastructure improvements are complete. This pause would allow us to prepare for and better assess the impact of increased traffic and adjust our plans to maintain a balance between development and accessibility. A mixed-use PUD might be more of an appropriate approach for this site that would allow for a blend of residential, commercial, and recreational spaces, which could be designed with thoughtful setbacks, green spaces, and traffic considerations that reflect the needs and character that we want for our community. So while I do support revitalization and thoughtful development, I believe that it's imperative that we proceed in a manner that is considerate of both current and future community needs. And I believe that holding off on this rezoning until our infrastructure can adequately support higher densities is the most responsible course of action. Thank you.
Yeah. I concur with Ms. Wilson. I think what we're doing is we are moving too quickly as far as rezoning to business and commercial because we've got a problem. We have a lack of workforce houses here in Somerville. We've got a lack of affordable housing. And there was an interesting article in the Post Courier 3 Sundays ago that said the Tri-County area is going to be the minority in the future because the people who are moving here are basically taking over. And but I do think that we are moving sometimes a little too fast as a council. And you look at our agendas and most of the meetings that we have, a lot of it is about rezoning and changing properties from residential to commercial. And I know we've got to make a certain amount of money. We've got to get taxes paid and all of that. But I think that's something we need to give some thoughts to. I want to thank you, my friend, Mr. Quist. Good comments.
Other discussion?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I wasn't prepared tonight to know that I wasn't gonna get a second on naturally for approving first reading of the petition. But the reason I'm in favor are kind of a few fold. One, our planning commission reviewed this rezoning and approved it 6-0. And in my mind, when our planning commission that we appoint approves something 6-0, that's a pretty good mandate that, you know, they feel like this is a good move for our town, and I usually try to support that. Second is as Councilman Brown, as you say, affordable housing is an issue in our town, is getting more and more an issue. We're not going to solve that problem by denying some density somewhere. So, and when I look at areas of dense population, we've already got a dense area in that area. If you look at the condos, townhomes that have been built out there already, it kind of fit the neighborhood. So those are the reasons why I was in favor of this rezone. Thank you.
Other council members, any comments? Go ahead. Okay, I thought you were going. Ms. Schuler, if this is denied this evening at this level based on this motion, what does that do for the application, the annexation, and the request as a whole?
It would die.
The annexation would?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is it currently zoned in the county?
I believe it is zoned R2, I believe.
Okay. So some level of development,
Single family residential.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Of their smaller lot size, not their large lot size.
right? And they would not be able to come in with another request of a down zoning to us for a year if it were denied?
So
Or
the
because it's an annexation?
way our ordinance reads is they can't come in with the same request. They have to wait a year. If they amended their request, they could potentially reapply, but that's, it would be more simpler. It would be simpler to suggest a down zoning on your end as the zoning that they're requesting than to just outright deny their annexation.
Thank you for that. And no, you, thank you.
Okay.
You're good. My comments are, is somewhat similar to, almost called you Mayor, Waring, but, Councilman Waring's comments. We have a lot of challenges, in the community. Housing affordability is one of the top challenges, that I hear about. Infrastructure is the other. What I'm, I hear the concerns about the infrastructure along Central Avenue, but the county's transportation sales tax program is improving this area of Central Avenue from Orangeburg Road to Parsons Road. And they're also including improvements on Orangeburg Road all the way to the interstate along Jedburgh Road to Mallard, and then from Orangeburg Road all the way to Dorchester Road. So it would seem that this is a corridor Number one, where growth is happening, but infrastructure investment is coinciding with it at the same time. My concern is if we don't do affordable housing closer into town, we create the same problem we've been creating for the last 30 years, which is urban sprawl and suburban sprawl. And the traffic we experience is exacerbated because we push people farther and farther from where they live, work, and play. So before we contemplate a denial, I would urge council to think about maybe pausing, coordinating with maybe the Planning and Development Committee and the applicant, and discussing maybe other alternatives that may be more palatable. But those are just my thoughts, but we do have a motion in a second. If there's no other discussion, I'll call for, and the motion is for denial, and the second is for denial, and I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of denial signify by saying aye.
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 Who were the ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Excuse me.
The motion is approved for denial.
I would just like to add to that. I would have possibly changed that, but I do not believe that the planning commission, it's stated on the planning commission agenda, and I may be wrong, but from my recollection, it didn't state that this was for affordable housing or workforce housing at all. And I do agree with Mr. Mayor in terms of some road projects, which are wonderful. I just believe that those need to start happening before we approve more development. Thank you.
Under pending bills and resolutions, second and final reading of an ordinance to annex TMS number 13705040013, located on Willis Lane and totaling approximately 0.57 acres, currently zoned AR Agricultural Residential in Dorchester County, and requested to be zoned GR2 General Residential, 2 units per acre, following annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits, and this would be in Council District 1.
I'll make a motion that we approve that annexation.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item B, second and final reading of an ordinance to sell town-owned property known as TMS 13711090001, known as the Park and Ride property off of Berlin G. Myers Parkway and East Sixth South Street.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to vote for this. However, I do want to add a comment for the record, please. The vote for this sale is not taken lightly, especially as someone participating in the real estate business daily and that serves on our real estate industry's grievance and professional standards committee. And considering the evolving landscape of the real estate industry and the additional financial burdens of our taxpayers. As you may be aware, the real estate industry has undergone significant changes following a landmark class action lawsuit. And while the class action lawsuit itself was regard to specific residential transactions, it still redefined many standard practices concerning real estate commissions across the board in both residential and commercial. Given these substantial changes, it is my belief that our town's practice of being responsible for a buyer's agent commission should be reconsidered moving forward. Taxpayers should not bear the cost of a commission structure that the market as a whole itself is moving away from, especially considering the increased tax burdens. Therefore, while I vote today in support of this sale to avoid potential delays in closing, I stress that this decision is an exception, and moving forward, I advocate that our town only be responsible for the compensation of one agent involved in a transaction. This stance is not only in alignment with the evolving real estate practices, but it serves to protect our town's financial integrity and the interest of our taxpayers. I look forward to us working together to implement these changes in future real estate transactions.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I agree with selling certain properties because it's as opposed to raising taxes on the taxpayers. We have to balance the budget, and sometimes we have a piece of property that could go commercial and bring some money into the coffers of the town. And we can do that without raising taxes. So I think it makes sense sometimes, but not all the time.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item C, second and final reading of an ordinance to amend the Town of Somerville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Article 2, Division 1, Section 24-72, to set a new deadline for special event permit applications.
I make a motion, we accept those changes.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve those changes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item D, second and final reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 15400000021, located at 225 Midland Parkway, totaling approximately 3.95 acres and owned by Trident Medical Center LLC, from NB Neighborhood Business to GB General Business.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Under introduction of bills and resolutions, item A, a resolution to amend the town's current organizational chart to place the town's associate judges under the supervision of the chief judge.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item B, first reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 13010000074, located at 917 West Fifth North Street, totaling approximately 0.27 acres and owned by Willie Jamison, from NMX Neighborhood Mixed Use to NR Neighborhood Residential. This is in Council District 1. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with no recommendation at its meeting on January 6, 2025.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion for approval.
All right, motion for approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Under miscellaneous, item A, approval of changes to the special events permit guide as presented in the January 9th, 2025 council agenda packet. This request is from the Parks and Recreation Department.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second. Second that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item B, accept the federal Safe Streets Planning Grant Award and authorize the town administrator to execute the grant agreement, which requires a $60,000 local match to be funded in the town's fiscal year 2026 budget. The request is from the Planning Department and Engineering Department.
I'll move for approval. I'll second.
Motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item C, discussion and instruction to town staff to initiate an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance regarding zoning for bed and breakfast. Request from Councilmember Tiffany Johnson Wilson.
Councilwoman?
So as a member of our community and a council member that has spoken to every bed and breakfast business owner in our town and an advocate for the historical integrity of our community, I do believe we need a vital amendment to our bed and breakfast ordinance. To give you a brief, quick history, bed and breakfast establishments have always been more than just a place to stay. They have been the custodians of history and culture. Bed and breakfasts originated in Europe, became a part of American history since the early settlers, and always providing comfort to travelers while preserving the architectural heritage of historic homes. In eras such as the Great Depression, bed and breakfasts served as an economic lifeline for many families, and today they offer a distinct experience that large impersonal hotels cannot match. Our current UDO restricts bed and breakfasts into two different categories and limits all of the current bed and breakfasts in Somerville to less than 5 rooms.
It also imposes management constraints that do not align with the operation realities of these businesses. These restrictions hinder their potential to contribute to our economy through accommodations taxes, which in turn can lessen the tax burden on our local residents. Bed and breakfasts enhance our tourism appeal, drawing visitors who value authenticity as well as contribute to a thriving local economy. Many bed and breakfasts in our district are struggling under our existing codes from my conversations with all of them, and do not comply under our current zoning. Several of our bed and breakfasts are even up for sale due to the high cost and operational challenges imposed by these regulations. This is not just a loss of business, but a missed opportunity to preserve our historical assets and promote sustainable tourism. In speaking today with Linda at Linwood Bed and Breakfast, and stated I could quote her, she said, "The only historic thing that Summerville has going for it is its historic, beautiful homes. And they take a lot of money to maintain, not just the rising taxes and insurance, but all of the maintenance. And that if we don't lessen restrictions and make it easier, they will no longer exist." So I propose we amend our ordinance to the following. 1, to allow for a greater range of room numbers accommodating larger historic homes that may have 6 bedrooms or 7 bedrooms that naturally fit more guests without compromising their charm and the charm of our community. And 2, to permit the employment of professional innkeepers or resident managers rather than restricting the management to the homeowner alone. This change would professionalize the service quality and operational efficiency of our bed and breakfasts and seen in other district areas. And 3, allow for the ability to host weddings or other small events to help them offset the operational cost of the taxes, insurance, and maintenance of these homes. I believe it's our duty to extend the good old Southern hospitality that Summerville is known for, not just through our words, but through supportive actions that enable our bed and breakfasts to flourish. So by amending our bed and breakfast ordinance, we stand to preserve our historic district, enrich our community, and boost our economy. I ask our residents to help us lead with vision and with empathy and ensure our regulations reflect the values and needs of Summerville. And I urge fellow council members to support this amendment, fostering an environment where history, community, and progress thrive together. Thank you.
I'd like to say I will vote for this. I don't agree with everything that was said, but we are now in a situation where people have already committed offenses and we're looking back. I'd like a way to tighten that up and make those fines so that people don't want to do that anymore. And I would like to have the time to discuss it with everybody so that we can come up with a good plan and move forward.
Is there a motion on the floor? Are you making a motion to request staff's support in having those amendments prepared and sent to the planning commission to initiate the process?
That's correct.
Okay. And was
And I'll
yours a
I'll
second?
second that, but
Okay.
instead of putting it all on planning, I think we might need to have a workshop to come up with what we want. I mean, it's not fair to just say, tell us what we need to
Okay.
do.
Mr. Slatton, help.
Yeah, council, understand that if you vote to move this forward, then what this will do is begin the UDO amendment process whereby language will be drafted. Certainly happy to have any suggestions that you would like to make in addition to what Councilmember Johnson Wilson has already proposed. And then we will put this in front of the Planning Commission for its vetting and discussion and deliberation, and then it will just move through the regular UDO amendment process. So if are additional steps that you as the council want to see, what I would recommend is that we do that once it reaches you from the Planning Commission with a recommendation of some kind. That's just a suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Slatton. So we have a motion and a second to initiate that process. We're open for discussion. Mr. Halter.
Thank you, sir. I am going to vote yes, simply to continue the conversation about amending the UDO. I do not agree with all the amendments that Councilmember Johnson Wilson is proposing. However, I do think we need to preserve the bed and breakfast industry. I'm all in favor of more tourists downtown. Let me say that I would not be in favor of amending the ordinance to protect the applicant of the rezoning. If there are fines imposed, that's a completely separate situation that has to play its way through the court system. And if it means that they have to remove rooms or tear down buildings, then so be it. But I do want to continue the conversation to encourage tourism downtown.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that anybody who has to get a license to meet a certain criteria, we need to have an egalitarian view toward everyone so that they're all treated the same.
Yeah, this is first, hearing about it tonight. So I'm not opposed to talking about it some more either. Inns and bed and breakfasts have been a part of this community since the beginning of Somerville. That's how we got our name. So that's something to think about there. I too agree that we should preserve that as well. But I'm just like I said, hearing about it tonight, that what you talked about, that I'm not in favor of all 3 items either. But I think there's nothing that we can't work through. And I agree with Councilman Halter is this is not something we're going to back up to make it retroactive to protect someone that's violated our ordinances either. So I would not be in favor of that either.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, I would
Yes, ma'am.
just concur with the gentleman here to my right with everything they said, and then I don't have to repeat it. So I will be voting for this, but I would hope that we would always enforce our fines, and when anybody does something that is not allowed, that there's repercussion for that.
All right, I'll make a couple quick comments. I think everybody hit the points on the head, but when the UDO was adopted, it was adopted to be a living document for the town of Somerville. And at any point in time, when we hear that industries or businesses or our residents are struggling and those issues are brought forth, I think it is prudent to go through the process of reviewing, contemplating what's going on and following the process to either amend or leave it as is. And I think I appreciate you for bringing that up and sharing the concerns of those businesses that are struggling. I think our businesses downtown love when tourists come in and spend their money. Out of town money is my favorite money. So that our folks in the town aren't the full burden of all the things we need to take care of ourselves. So I appreciate you bringing it up. And with that, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor, I do not have any more public comments. Next is executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I move we enter executive session to discuss personnel matter related to appointments to citizen boards, commission committees, discussion regarding development of security personnel or device related to town of Somerville 911 operations, and a personnel matter related to employee evaluations of the town clerk, town attorney, and chief judge.
Second.
All right, we have a motion